no better time to have that conversation that we talked about a while ago. My guests, at least two of them, are already with me in the studio. Let's begin with the first one, so my immediate left here. Incidentally, both of them are lawyers. Matthew Edegese, Esquire, legal practitioner. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate it. And then next to him is his colleague, Edobo Maduko, a legal practitioner as well. Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Good
Especially
morning.
on short notice, I should say.
Thank you.
Great. Gentlemen, let's get right on it. Let me begin with you, Matthew. The discussion about the not too young to run law is nothing strange to us anymore. I mean, it's in front of us. But going forward, many people have been asking about the practicality of that law, as it were. I mean, talking about how young people can take advantage of it and be able to interpret it real time in such a way that it begins to, in significant ways, influence the way we politic in Nigeria. What have been your thoughts about that?
When the concept of not too young to run came up, I wasn't too excited. Okay. There was general euphoria and all of that. Eventually, it became a bill and it has been assented to by the president. Now it is a law of the land. I am a realist. I don't believe in fantasy. If you think the mere existence of that law will translate to the rights of younger Nigerians to become political office holders, it is a mirage. There are variables. There are so many odds working against the young Nigerian. From even living a very respectable and decent life. The economy has been arrested and pocketed by the older generation of the ruling class. An average graduate doesn't even have the money to run for councillorship position unless he's sponsored. Politics in Nigeria is very expensive. They have so monetized and commercialized it. Picking form is expensive. Running the campaign is very expensive. They've introduced the concept of even vote buying, where you have to pay every voter to give you his mandate, his votes. If these are the situations we are going to confront with, the young Nigeria are going to confront with, to be confronted with, where does this law, how does it solve the problem? Where will the money come from for a young Nigerian to aspire for the presidential seat? Looking at the size of the country, the number of states to be covered, to run a campaign for presidency, you are talking of billions. I don't know how many young Nigerians have access to 1 billion. Would
you say this law has further complicated the narrative?
I think it would have better remained as a revolution in the mind of the young Nigerians. That things should be done differently. The law cannot be enforced against your capacity. You have to be capable to be able to benefit from the provision of that law. And that capacity is lacking. And the people who manage the system are not ready to release the economic power. We want to see economic empowerment of the youth first before you talk of political empowerment.
So we're not seeing that yet?
They are not ready because you are not seeing young directors of public enterprises.
Who is not ready, the players or the youth?
Not the youth. The youth are ready. The owners of the system, in quotes, are not ready to open up the space, the economic space. Unless the economic space is opened up, the political space will remain closed up. Because you need money to access the political space.
Yeah, a lot of persons have said, nobody gives you anything, you have to take it. So why aren't the youth taking it?
That is why I say it should be revolutionary inclined. It should be a revolution. The youth should speak to themselves and agree among themselves that we will no longer...
You called it revolution in their minds. That's what you said a while ago.
When you have this conviction that you are not ready to be used by the older class of politicians because they have these carrots at their disposal, which they dangle at the impoverished youth whenever they want to acquire political power. And the youth political contenders do not have these carrots. All they have is ideology. And they must buy the gate pass to access the opportunity to aspire. And that is money. And that has been taken away from them.
Barrister Matuko, let me come to you. I'm going to let you catch your breath a little. Let me come to you now. There's some insinuation. In fact, some persons strongly hold the position that there's a deliberate attempt. So, in fact, there's an agenda is keen to impoverish the youths mentally and financially in such a way that they are incapacitated enough not to be able to become players in the political space. How much of that idea do you share?
It's a truism when you apply it to the country called Nigeria. What, in many ways, I totally agree with my good friend here. There are so many things politicians churn up, that excites Nigerians. And the sooner we learn to play down on the excitement and face the reality of the situation, the better for us. I'll give you a solid example. I am a married man today. I'm 12 years in marriage with 3 kids.
We should be drinking to that after this program.
Well, I'm coming to that. From my days in the nursery and primary school till now that I have my own children I'm training, I've been hearing the same names in the Nigerian political circle. And we have a saying that we also put there that the youths are the leaders of tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And from my nursery and primary school days till now that I'm also a father, I'm still hearing that the youths are the leaders of tomorrow. Will tomorrow ever manifest itself? Now, what the political leaders have simply done is, at every given time, they churn up issues that excite. We see Nigerians, we are easily excited. We are going to feed school children. We are going to pay unemployed youth 5,000 naira. We are declaring the Democracy Day, June 12. You see, issues that do not go down to really touch on the lives of the citizenry. Now you have come with not too young to run bill, which is now an act, which is basically, in any case, just an amendment of the Constitution. They just simply amended some parts of the Constitution to say we reduce age for presidency from 40, 35, governorship 35, just slight reductions.
Are you impressed with that age?
That's what I'm telling you. It's nothing to be impressed by. It is there's absolutely nothing to be impressed with that. Because really looking at it, actually looking at it, the reduction of age has nothing to do with efficiency, has nothing to do with capacity to serve, has nothing to do with maximizing the profits from productivity. It doesn't have anything to do with it. I'll give you an example. The president of Ghana, Ado Kufuor, is doing very well since he's swearing in. But he's not a youth, so to speak. The humblest president in the world, President of Uruguay, Mujica, donates 90% of his salary every month to charities. And he's doing so well. He's a man that is almost entering his 80s. And around the world, you have persons like that. So strictly speaking, this age thing, it doesn't really, manifest to be the youth will do better or the older ones will do worse. But in the case of Nigeria, in our peculiar case, we have come to such a state that we said we have had it up to here. Because of the same names that keep recycling over the years that we have been hearing. And that is why it seems to be, there seems to be this hula baloo, this uproar of youths about the whole issue. But when you come down to the nitty-gritty, that is not what we are supposed to be saying.
If you're not impressed, just like your colleague over here isn't too, about these whole developments regarding the not too young to run law, what exactly would you have expected the government to be doing as far as empowering the youth is concerned?
Face the facts.
What are the facts?
The facts are this: that Nigerian youths are unemployed, that there are more tangible things, more tangible problems that are bedeviling the country. We are insecure, my brother. I don't want to say what happened to me personally a few days ago. We are insecure in this country. There is an urgent need, and I dare say, to declare a state of emergency on security in this country. But you see, the things that we ought to take seriously, we take lightly. And the things that, well, in the modest way of speaking, we ought to take not too seriously, but let it be done, we put in the front burner. What the hell is not too young to run? Just reduce, slight reduction of age, and there's so much noise about it. We can do that quietly. The president of France is doing well. He's a youth. All around the world, all the countries, even in Africa, there are youths taking over leadership. They are not making so much noise about it. They are doing it's a willpower. I'm happy that at least to some little extent, the youths are becoming aware. If you look at those coming out for presidency, the Kingsley Mogalus, the Omoyole Showores, even coming down to those running for Edo State House Assembly, there are so many youths that are now aware that, look, we need to take this leadership into our hands. We need to make this change. The conviction is slowly dawning on us, and the motivation is slowly coming up in persons, in youths, to take up this challenge.
As that conviction builds up, for instance, how much of advantage do you see it giving the youth as far as playing in the political space is concerned? Because it's supposed to be convinced about something, but how do you translate that conviction into something tangible and measurable over time?
It has to do a lot with the minds of the average youth. Now, he said something. He talked about money politics.
Right.
Money politics, unfortunately, still holds sway as at today. But you see, if we can work on the psyche, of our youth, to say, fine, this old generation that have refused, that have perpetrated themselves, and they have used this money to buy their place in power. If we can say, okay, fine, you go, they normally call them, say, okay, we'll meet you, take money, go do this, do this. You go, you meet them, you take the money. But you do what is right. You do what you are convinced to do.
The revolution of the mind.
We need to work on the mind of the youth. That, look, Mandela in South Africa, most of the time, did not use violence, but he used engagement. We need to engage these persons. Not necessarily violently, but we can use intelligence to engage them. There are so many youths now that have come out and they are going for positions, from the position of presidency in this country to the position of House of and Councillorship. We have the numbers. We have the power in our hands, the raw power. The Nigerian youths now should wake up and empower their own. That is their primary constituency.
Let me come to you, Matthew, now. A lot of persons have also argued that if there is a youth who is ambitious, who understands the issues, and has the skill, has the leadership to provide, to be able to, who wants to hold position, for instance, there are people who would want to throw their supports, throw their weight behind such a person. But he just mentioned presidency, for instance. You also talked about that. How much of demand it places on somebody who wants to run as a president in this country, financially and otherwise. Is that realistic to say, I have an ambition, for instance, to become a senator or the president of the country, and then I expect people around to throw their weight behind me, and then hopefully I will ultimately turn out to become the president? Does that really work?
A snake cannot give birth to a chicken. The youth that will be projected under this arrangement will be those that are sponsored, if they are ever willing to relinquish power, by the same people who do not wish this country well.
So it's a matter of same old, same old.
Yes, because it is not a question of the age of the person coming. It has to do with the character and the background and the ideological foundation of the person coming up. Assuming without considering that the youth who are aspiring now are the best of our best 11 among the younger Nigerians. We should also go further to look at their background. Who is fronting? Who are they fronting for, if any? And what the variables, the odds against them are. I tell you as I sit here now, that it's not enough to say I'm a youth, I want to be president of this country. Your criteria should not be the fact that you are just a youth. You should be confident that you are a qualified and competent Nigerian with capacity to deliver. That is more appealing than just your age.
So you think there's too much of emphasis on age?
Macron did not win because he was young in France. Macron was having a lot of willpower, ideological conviction, and he was able to push himself up and win the heart of the people. If you have no charisma, You do not have ideological strong foundation. You just want to float on the wings of this euphoria of youth have been asked to come and rule, so let me go out. You are a wayfarer.
You just talked about Macron, for instance, whom you refer to as one who didn't win because he was a youth,
yes,
but because he was able to find his way into the heart of the people.
Yes.
That is suggestive of populism.
Yes.
Exactly. And that worked for President Trump in 2016 in the US.
Yes.
It has worked somewhere also in New Zealand.
Yes.
But populism is not popular around here now, is it?
Populism and democracy cannot be separated.
So how come we are not marrying both in Nigeria?
It's a game of numbers.
cousins.
If you are not popular ordinarily, you shouldn't win in the democratic arrangement. It's a game of numbers. So when you say populism, they want to blackmail as if people ride around you, it is a cheap followership. No. Populism is democracy in practical terms.
Okay.
It's a game for who is more popular than the other. It's not an elitist thing. Trump won because they believe in him. The majority of the people.
Even without prior political experience.
Yes, they believe in his message. They believe in his assurances. They believe in his character. And he got the power.
Some persons have suggested independent candidacy in Nigeria. Do you see that coming through anytime soon?
They refuse to allow that become or to be, because that would have been a better window
For the youth?
for credible people, not just the youth, for credible characters to access power without necessarily passing through the bureaucracy and bottleneck of party stereotype politics. Because if you look at the party structure as they are, you are talking about party congresses, primaries. This is where they screen the real people out and screen the wrong people in. Because this oligarchs are in control of that party structure. They fund it. And whoever they pay the piper, they tell the truth. They determine who emerges. Look at the violent primary that has bedeviled the polity of the current ruling party. A lot of people were killed, injured, mayhem. This is because they were passing through the party bureaucracy. If you were going to come as a candidate, there will be no need for anybody to fight anybody to emerge as a candidate. And whoever is able to pass through that eye of the head of a camel, might be a needle eye, might end up not being a camel again, and whenever it eventually emerges.
They become a snake.
Yeah, yes, a snake. Instead, she was there to pass through that needle eye. So we begin to get people who are radically different from our expectation because of the process that throw them up. They are conditioned. They are told what to do. They are given precondition before they will be supported by the oligarchs. And that is not democracy in real terms.
What do you call that?
It's oligarchy.
Okay.
They are disguising as democracy.
That's quite deeper than we can readily imagine, because there's supposed to be ordinarily a clear distinction between oligarchy and democracy. Exactly.
It's a process that does not throw the people up based on the acceptance of the generator of the people. It's not democracy. It's not democratic. That is why you see parties are fighting against internal democracy. Internal democracy is the very foundation of democracy. You can't have undemocratic process within the party, and you expect this party to be democratic at the larger context.
So ultimately it is garbage in, garbage out.
That is what they are doing.
David, talk to me about party structure, for instance. It will appear the party structure as it stands today doesn't favor a lot of people. I mean, the emphasis again goes back to the youth, who will be ambitious enough, smart enough, intellectually inclined enough to want to hold positions, elective positions, that is.
Yeah, it borders a lot on what my colleague just last mentioned. Internal party democracy. It's lacking in a lot of our political parties, highly lacking. Because of the preceding past 3 years, we saw, sorry to mention, how the PDP disintegrated. And I tell you, with all sense of modesty, that it is largely due to that lack of internal democracy in the party. A lot of people wants to lord it over others. And it's happening in one way or the other in all other parties.
Including the APC party.
Including the APC. You know, and we just pray that there's no implosion that will now sum up to an explosion later. So, but if we can imbibe these values, these cultures, I think it will go a long way. The youth, generally, their hands are tied. They are bad. Why? they are not financially independent. So they are forced to have backers. They are forced to have sponsors. The few, I've seen one or two now who are a bit independent financially, they have good business. They are trying to go into it, you know, solely on their own. There's, if you look at the presidency, there are those that are professors on their own, they are good. There's one that has a news outfit, you know, that at least they are financially strong.
I'm going to push on that conversation in a bit, but quickly, we have to take a break now, and we'll come back. Barrister David Maduko will push that narrative further. Stay with us.
TMI, every opinion counts.
Well, thank you for staying with us on the program. I've just been joined by a veteran award-winning filmmaker and social commentator, Laszlo Toduwa-Emaswa. It's a pleasure to have you join us on the program.
Thank you so much.
Great. But in the meantime, let me go back to David. You were talking about the party structure and so on and so forth. You want to push that narrative?
Yeah. I was just trying to lay the emphasis that, you know, the youth, because of their lack of financial empowerment, would always go towards the leaders that are there.
Some people say they'll go cap in hand.
Well, cap in hand, cap in breast or whatever, but they go there and they don't have the independency of mind. So that when they get into the positions, if they do get there, it will be a case of dictation from the background on what they do. And every other means for them to come to empower themselves is blocked by these so-called leaders. For example, this issue of independent candidacy that you said, if it's allowed to be, that is a leeway for a lot of, not even only youth, other independent-minded persons who are qualified, who have the merits to come through there. I remember when Honorable Samson Osage was in the House, there was a time they were going to do amendment of the Constitution, and they called for memoranda. I wrote extensively on independent candidacy. I wrote on 2 issues. I bundled the copies with my own money and took it to Abudu. I remember it was Abudu they did that thing. On independent candidacy, on the need to include it in the Constitution, and on the need to increase the revenue formula. The derivation principle. I wrote on those things. So probably if they had looked at all those memoranda that time they called for and collated the ideas together with ideas that flowed out from the confab. I heard that a lot of beautiful ideas flowed out from that confab.
Of course.
But unfortunately, those are documents that are sitting somewhere.
In lieu of the practicality of independent candidacy, one would have thought, I mean, in a political system where you have a little over 4 dozen parties, that should be an alternative for the young people to
a beautiful alternative. A beautiful alternative.
So are we taking advantage of that?
Of course, we know that they have been thrown to the garbage. Have you heard anything further on independent candidacy? It has been true. That is part of the things we are saying, that these persons, the powers that be, continue to block all ways, all outlets that could empower.
I'll give you a small break and come to Lancelot. You have made movies over, for a little over 2 decades now. You've won awards and you have had that as a platform to interact with people, young people in particular, for instance. What are you hearing about ambition in the political sense of the word?
I did it because I don't just pride myself as a filmmaker. I want to be known as a cultural activist. And whenever we say culture, people just think it's about coming to dance and sing and all that. You see, there is need for cultural evolutions.
And we don't have that yet.
And we don't have that here. And that entails quite a lot of things. The way we think, the way we do things, the way we interact, the way we allow things to be done. So yes, I was one of those that carried placards. I was met by the guys that were pushing for this. I thought it was a good idea, and I supported the idea by standing with them entirely. But quite frankly, sitting on my own, I'm looking at it. Is it the problem of laws that is our problem, or the fact that the laws are there? It is actually the ability for us to enforce the laws that is a problem. So beyond just writing it down. Okay, governor now can be from 35 to 30. House of Assembly can be from 30 to 25. President now can be from 40 to 35. Let us be honest. How many 35-year-old Nigerians, even amongst us, the so-called, well, I'm no longer a youth, I'm almost 50. Younger Nigerians are standing with the young guys that are coming out. The Sofore and this other guy ran into him in Enugu recently. Fela Durotoye.
Yes.
I was with him. How many youths? Because nothing here is actually done for the sake of, I believe, let me do it. And that is where the problem lies. So beyond the House of Assembly pushing for this, accepting it, and signing it into law by the president, it goes beyond how do we sign our mind now into law to believe that this is a reality. That is where my problem lies with all of this. Because the young minds that will come out, where are they going to find the financial resources? Election is expensive here. In this, especially these last elections that we have had, where money has played predominant roles, where votes are sold, cards are being paid for. How many youths will really have the money to do that?
And you think these are all cultural problems?
These are all cultural problems because we are not allowing our culture to evolve. Because if we allow, go read history and find out how democratic our system was here in Benin. The Ojonwe system in the villages. How many riots you see? They say, okay, this is the eldest man. This is the second. Nobody goes to pay for it. The system is there and it works with them from that traditional institution. Look at the palace of the Oba Benin. Look at the arrangements. Look at the hierarchy. Have you ever had any quarrel, war about that?
So how did this cultural disconnect happen in the first place?
That is where we are. That is the unfortunate thing. You see, by the time we refuse as a people to allow decency to take the better part of us, we are going to remain in this quagmire.
Is that realistic? Because people have said that politics is murky water and it's dirty too.
It is. I agree. You see, what we play, somebody was telling me, we're discussing something, say, don't give up. Go for it. I say, how? Somebody is given a job to do. He has signed contract and going to do a job. You go behind and backstab and tear the person. You say because you are hustling. No. But if we throw stuff like this, okay, come a bid, and everybody come, whatever you have to get it, you go.
And there's fairness and due process.
That is the politics. It's not the way we go about it. It's like lobbying and all of that. They are all political tools that you must use to achieve. But to whose greater advantage? That is where we have a problem. So for me, not whether you write it as a law, whether it is signed in as a law, not too young to, but there are, you and I know very well, even the president knows that the youths are not properly empowered. Empowerment now is not even the cash, it's empowerment of the mind. Empowerment of the mind for people to beg for volunteers. For it's okay, I'm going to volunteer 1 month to work for this guy because I believe in his strength. How are we going to get that?
Not because you have been financially induced.
No. People are going to do donation. I am a member of the American Democratic Party. See, today we get you get text messages, you get email, donate $1, donate this. This is how the system there has evolved. People donate.
Can we replicate that here?
That is where the problem lies. So this is where I feel we've missed it as a people. This is where we are missing it. It is not about the rules, the laws. How are we hoping to implement the laws? And right now there's a major moral debasement of our totality as a people.
It's unfortunate we don't have all the time to expand this conversation beyond this because we're time constrained. Yeah. But as we wrap it up now, gentlemen, let's just have the last word from each of the two of you. Let's begin with Matthew.
Yes. If I'm allowed to make my input into that announcement, I would have been talking of too old to run.
Okay.
Not too young to run. There should be a ceiling on those who should not be seen in the political space anymore.
Right.
That is the only way to sanitize the stage. Otherwise, this skeleton we have on the stage will not allow the real flesh to come in. They have occupied the space. There should be a law prohibiting certain persons who are obviously too old from occupying position of responsibility. Not only political power, majorly economic power. We don't want to see people who are not even competent awarded contracts. Let the law state economically that certain category of youths, younger Nigerians, are the only people eligible for certain class of contracts. Because it's at your age, at your age that you have the capacity to deliver. Why will you reserve contract for old men? When you can do it better. You have the zeal.
Hopefully, I said something. We're going to have a public hearing where all of these issues will be brought to the fore. But before that happens, let me go to David. Just give us your last word on the program.
Well, governance generally, the principle separation of powers must be respected, must be kept to. If each segment of the governance of the country keeps to doing what they're supposed to do and respecting each other and having the powers to check and balance each other, things will go well. I watched in the television where a parliamentarian was telling Jacob Zuma's South African president that, look, you are a corrupt man. He told him face to face, we should learn to be that bold and courageous in this country and to speak the truth. The legislature should tell the executive the truth, and the judiciary should dispense justice without fear or favor.
That's where you belong.
Things will go well if that is done, and not throwing up tantrums and making noise about little issues like not too young.
So we should prioritize. Well, let's hope we do that. Gentlemen, we're so grateful for your time with us on TMI this Thursday morning. Lancelot Duwa, a filmmaker and social commentator, cultural activist, I should say. Thank you for coming on the program. And of course, we have Barrister Matthew Edegese, legal practitioner. Thank you for coming as well.
Thanks for having me.
Exactly. I should also thank David Maduko, legal practitioner, for coming. We appreciate your time, and we hope you have a great day ahead of you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.